Welcome into Morning JOX here, Wednesday morning. Conrad and Damien here with you on JOX 94.5 for the next hour, recapping everything that we had going on last night in the world of Major League Baseball as well as the NBA postseason. We haven't talked about the NBA playoffs yet, so we'll give you a quick update on what's going on out there for, let's be honest, probably the two of you that have been watching along with me at night. I know Damien enjoys the NBA and has been keeping up with it a little bit as well, but we've got some pretty good series going on right now over there, but we do also have a lot of things going on in Major League Baseball. And as we did yesterday, we will start off in the world of Major League Baseball here this morning on Morning JOX, because the Atlanta Braves were on a 4-game winning streak after sweeping the Minnesota Twins at home, then starting a series with the St. Louis Cardinals. They picked up the first game of that set 2 nights ago, so going for a 5-game winning streak, which truly just incredible based on the start of the season that Atlanta had. This is exactly what they were looking for, to finally start piecing some wins together. And you could tell that it was, a lot of it felt like a confidence thing, right, for the Braves. It was almost a mental side of they forgot what they were capable of doing. You string together a couple of wins, and just like that, you remember, oh yeah, we're a pretty good baseball team. There's a reason that a lot of people were projecting us to potentially win the National League East yet again, and even a lot of people picking them to, in some cases, win the World Series this year. But last night they take on the St. Louis Cardinals, and you thought early on that it was going to be more of the same for the Atlanta Braves. So the Cardinals do take a 2-0 lead on Newt Barr's 2-run home run he had there in the third, but then the bats came alive for the Braves there in the 4th and 5th. You had Sean Murphy with a home run there to start things going. Verdugo then gets an RBI double, and I made a lot of fun about him because his time in New York last year was abysmal. There's a reason that he had to sign a minor league deal to start the season with the Braves this year. And the fact that he was, all right, this is, kind of one of our last hopes as the Braves, right? We need some stability offensively. Alex Verdugo, his first game, he goes 0 for, and I kind of told you so. And ever since then, he's struck fire, and he's been excellent for the Braves since getting called up. So he has an RBI double last night. Austin Riley scores on an infield single. You've got an error, whatever. The ball's flying around the infield there. So the Braves, they take a 3-2 lead in the bottom of the 4th. Then in the bottom of the 5th, Matt Olson comes up to the plate. He hits a bomb to give the Braves a 4-2 lead. You're feeling pretty good at that point. Okay, yeah, here we are. We're the Braves. The bats have come alive. We got the Cardinals got on the board early, but it's going to be smooth sailing the rest of the way here. And unfortunately, it was not, because from that point on, the Braves would not score again, and the St. Louis Cardinals would go on to score 8 runs in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th innings to pull off the 10-4 victory over the Atlanta Braves there. So big win for the Cardinals. It was their second road win of the entire season. So
there we go.
Good to find some winning ways there. If you were the Cardinals, I know Pat Smith, it's been a rough little while for him. But they get back into the win column last night again over there in Atlanta. You had Blewett for the Braves. He was going in a bullpen game because you had Spencer Strider, who, if you remember, he came back from his major injury and from his surgery last week, had a pretty good showing out there, but then he got back on the 15-day IL with a hamstring issue, so he simply can't catch a break. So Braves have to go with the bullpen game yesterday, but Blewett goes 3 innings for you, gives up 4 hits, 2 earned runs there. Bummer comes in, gives you 2 scoreless innings, but unfortunately Montero came in, could only get 1 out and gave up 2 runs there, and then you had your pair of relievers in the back end there, both giving up 3 earned runs last night to the Cardinals. So just a rough outing there for Atlanta. Bats went cold after the 5th inning, and the bats got hot for St. Louis, and that's all she wrote. So the good news is you can get back in the saddle today if you are Atlanta, as they will take on the Cardinals in an early game today. That game is actually going to start at 11:15 this morning. So
okay, Get some early morning baseball.
That's right. Yes, you get some early morning baseball there over there in Atlanta, and it looks like you are going to have Bryce Elder on the mound for the Atlanta Braves, taking on Miles Mikolas for the St. Louis Cardinals. And if you're the kind of person that wants to wager on some day baseball, just for entertainment purposes only, of course, maybe take the over in this one, because Mikolas has a 7.64 ERA on the season and Bryce Elder has a 7.2 ERA on the season. So that would be the direction I would go if you were looking to get in on that game. I would expect there to be some runs scored there. But that game will get going. You'll be able to hear that on JOX 2. The pregame show will get going at 11 a.m. First pitch expected at 11:15 this morning, though. All right, now quickly, let's go to the world of the NBA, because I know we haven't spent a lot of time on this. But last night I was able to watch a couple of these games from the NBA postseason. Just to let you know where things are, where they currently stand right now. So the first game you had last night, you had the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Indiana Pacers, and it looks like it is going to be yet another rough postseason for Giannis, not in the sense that he's not playing well, but in the sense that the Bucks are going to find themselves going home in the first round yet again. It's been a struggle for them ever since they won the NBA Finals a handful of years ago, haven't been able to recapture that success in the postseason. And now they went up against Indiana Pacers team that they fell to last night, 123-115. So Indiana now has a 2-zip lead in that series. They are over the Milwaukee Bucks. So going to be rough yet again for Milwaukee. It's been a weird couple of years since they won the NBA Finals, and they bring over Damian Lillard, and you think that they're about to go back on this magical run. And Giannis is still good. I mean, Giannis is one of the 3 finalists for the MVP this year. I mean, he's continuing to be one of the best players in the league. It just hasn't worked out for the Bucks so far. So the Pacers win last night. Then you had another absolute beatdown, not as bad as the other night when they lost by like 60, but the Thunder knock off the Grizzlies 118-99 last night. So OKC up 2-0 in that one. And I mean, if this is what we're getting from the Thunder, they're the best team in the regular season. They're showing that right now in the postseason. I mean, if this is the team you're going to get
the brooms out for this series. I think it's over. Yes,
and I still think, and we'll talk about the Lakers here in a second because they played last night too. I still think the Lakers and the Warriors are intriguing in the West because of the experience that they have, and we know what LeBron and Steph do in the postseason. They save their best for the postseason. But man, the Thunder are just so good, right? The only thing I can hold against them is they just don't have the guys that have made it to an NBA Finals type scenario, and so you wonder, how that might impact, them because they're so young. But yeah, they are pretty darn good. So the Thunder, they're up 2-0 on the Grizzlies, and then you had the Lakers and the Timberwolves last night. The Lakers out to a big lead at halftime, but Minnesota able to make it kind of interesting there, especially in the fourth quarter. But the Lakers get a 94-85 win. Luka goes for almost a triple-double, 31, 12, and 9. So he was phenomenal last night for the Lakers, and they get a 9-point win over the Timberwolves to even that series at 1 game apiece. So that's where that one currently stands. Tonight, you are going to have the Celtics taking on the Magic there in the East. Boston currently a 1-0 lead in that series. You've got the Cavs and the Heat. After that, Cleveland up 1-0 in that series, and then the Warriors and the Rockets are the nightcap, and you have the Warriors who are up 1-0 in that series as well. And then you do have the Pistons and Knicks who are tied at 1 game apiece, as well as the Clippers and Nuggets who are tied at 1 game apiece. So that is your NBA postseason update. From time to time, we will do that leading up to the NBA Finals because I get it. I know a lot of people probably don't watch the NBA until the NBA Finals, or you may not even watch that. But I know what you've been hearing. I know what you see on social media. It's not as bad as people make it seem. I understand it's not the old NBA. It's not even the NBA that we grew up with, Damian. I definitely preferred the league 10 years ago to what it is now, but it is still high quality basketball.
1,000%.
You might enjoy it. I'll just say that. You might surprise yourself. You might actually have a good time.
Absolutely. If you want old school coaching, imagine, us 10 years ago saying that J.J. Redick would be the head coach of the Lakers. And he's not.
And a damn good one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, he ain't out here trying to be, yes, he may be LeBron's best friend off the court. But the way that he coaches that LA Lakers team, imagine a more successful Dan Hurley without all the hoopla. Like, it's very aggressive. Like, he says what's on his mind, and he's a former player, so he knows exactly what the players are going through, and he has the expectations. And all in all, it's a great product. Man, he's coaching a 25-year-old Luka and a 40-year-old LeBron James for a chance to play for an NBA Finals. And he's going against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who again, we've seen Anthony Edwards when he was at Georgia, and it's okay. He could be pretty good. Felt like Georgia was wasting his time. Mm-hmm. But then you watch him in the NBA, it's, oh my God, he is an absolute superstar, and he has the killer instinct. If you are the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants of the fans of the world, I promise you, the closest thing that you get to a young player that's got an absolute killer mentality is Anthony Edwards. And it's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Like, if you watch Anthony Edwards play basketball, you have the feeling of nostalgia of, oh, he is not friends with anybody that is not in a Timberwolves uniform.
Did you see what he got fined for?
Yeah. He said some things.
Yep.
Said some things.
Apparently doesn't even like the fans of the other team, which, I mean, they were giving it to him. I'll give him that. But I was just like,
and then the comeback that he had.
I will just say this. I'm not condoning it, but at the same time, there's something about knowing, hey, I'm going to say something that's going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars, and I still am going to say it because I just can and I want to.
Exactly.
Again, not saying it's the best thing in the world, but
his choice of words were,
it's kind of,
whoa, okay, brother.
It's funny. It's kind of funny. Like, can I have a sense of humor about it, I think. But so that's what's going on over there in the NBA postseason world, as well as the world of Major League Baseball. But I did want to, so we've talked a lot about the transfer portal here over the last week and a half or so now. And again, so the basketball portal has closed. So, guys aren't going to be able to go in, but they are going to be able to come out of the transfer portal. The football portal is closing on Friday. So with that being the case, and with the Nico drama kind of commanding the headlines here in the world of college football for the last couple of weeks, I wanted to look at what are some of the best and worst decisions that we've seen in the transfer portal era, because I think a lot of people would agree that Nico in this situation is arguably the worst. There might be some other ones that you could come up with, but just when you look at the circumstances, financially, the hit that he's going to take, going to a program that's in worse shape. You're playing for a head coach with a lesser pedigree. You're going to a program that has less weapons around you for you to have success on the field. And so I think there's a lot of ways that you could look at that as potentially maybe the worst move we've seen of the transfer portal era. But what are some other ones that come to mind when you go, man, that player, maybe they had all the potential in the world and then they transferred somewhere and you never heard from them again. Maybe it's a situation where a school decided, hey, we're going to go get this highly touted quarterback out of the portal, and then he ends up being a bust, and you find yourself, hey, you just kind of blew $1.5, $2 million on a player that's not helping your football program this year. So I want to look at some of the worst as well as some of the best, some of the highlights that we've had of this transfer portal era going back to the end of 2018. I know it's crazy to say this, but the transfer portal has been around for 6.5 years now. Like, it feels like it's been about 2, but it's been 6.5 years. So we have some time to go back and look. So when we come back here on Morning JOX, me and Damon will go through some of our choices for the best and worst transfer portal decisions of the portal era. And we'd like to get your thoughts too. 205-834-9450. What are some of your favorite teams? Some of the additions that you thought have been the brightest spots of the portal era where you go, hey, maybe this thing isn't so bad. But then what are also the low moments where you go, man, we really need to change some things because this can't keep happening. So we'll dive into all that when we return here on the Wednesday edition of Morning JOX. 6:19 here on Morning JOX. Welcome into the Wednesday edition. Conrad and Damian here with you, recapping what happened last night as the Braves fell to the Cardinals 10-4, and just giving you a little quick update, an overview of what's going on in the NBA postseason so far. But now I did want to try to have a little bit of fun and maybe in some ways a trip down memory lane. For some people good, for some people bad, maybe. But we are now 6.5 years into the transfer portal era. It opened in late 2018. And so since then, what are some of the more, I guess, memorable transfers, either from a positive or a negative standpoint, right? In the sense of what are some of the players that helped themselves the most? And you look back and you go, man, the transfer portal opening, that changed their life. That changed their career, the trajectory of what they could be. And guys that we now know as everyday players that we maybe wouldn't have never known if it wasn't for the portal. But then on the other side, what are some situations where you look back and you go, man, talk about buyer's remorse from one program or another about going out and getting this guy. So I'll throw some out there to start. We already have some people texting some in. I know Damian has some as well. And I do want to mention, so for some of these with the transfer portal, so for example, like a Jacob Coker, that technically doesn't count because that happened before the transfer portal era. Now, for example, another person that I had that I was going to bring up that does count is Landon Dickerson. He was one of the first because he transferred right there. Like when the transfer portal opened, he was one of that first group that got in there and came to Alabama. So there are some people that if you're wise, Cam Newton not on this list because it doesn't, because he was in a different era, right? That clearly him and Joe Burrow would probably be viewed as the top two transfers of all time if we were just going off of, any circumstance. But I'm talking about after the portal opened and that portal era has started, who are the biggest names since then. So I said Landon Dickerson for Alabama. So I'll start for Alabama and Auburn. For Alabama, I think Landon Dickerson and what he meant to that 2020 team going and winning a national championship. And clearly now he's a starting offensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles. He just won himself a Super Bowl. Things are going quite well for him. And I'm not saying that he wouldn't have been fine if he had stayed at FSU, but what he meant for Alabama, that was a huge addition for them in that 2020 season especially. And then I think overall, though, if I were have to say the best transfer that Alabama's gotten so far, it's Jameson Williams. I think just from taking a no-name player from Ohio State, don't mean that disrespectfully, but a guy that was buried on the depth chart, right? And turning him into a Biletnikoff winner, a first-round draft pick, one of the best receivers we've seen in the last handful of years of college football. I think he's easily the best that Alabama's had. And then for Auburn, I said Keandre Lambert-Smith. I think that's the best portal addition that they've had because he was absolutely sensational for them last year. And if you had better quarterback play, you just kind of start to wonder what that ceiling would have been like for him last year. So that would be my pick for Alabama and Auburn. But for some good ones, again, I threw out Hendon Hooker to Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
I think that was for both him and for Tennessee.
Yes,
ended up being a very mutually beneficial situation. I think Jaden Daniels to LSU, a guy that we had seen him have success as a freshman at Arizona State, but then going to LSU and what he became. I mean, I don't think that the Jaden Daniels that we saw in the NFL last year and that we saw 2 years ago winning the Heisman Trophy, I don't think we ever see that Jaden Daniels if he stays at Arizona State. So I think that was an excellent decision on both parties there. I also put in Bo Nix going to Oregon, and I know that's going to sting for some people, but for him, that changed his life. Like, again, I'm sorry, but you can't convince me that he would have been a first-round pick in the NFL draft if he had stayed at Auburn his entire career. So, again, it stings, but going to Oregon did a lot of good for him. And I also, I'll also throw in, and this is more so for the program and kind of what it signified. I put Quinn Ewers on this list, and not in the sense that he absolutely lit the world on fire during his time at Texas, but he is a big part of, Texas is back now. Like, I think we can officially say that in confidence that they are an elite program in college football right now, and him coming over there and taking over the reins. And I just remember that first game where Alabama went and played at Texas, and Alabama lost, and Quinn Ewers got hurt in that game. And if he didn't get hurt in that game, I don't think Alabama wins that game. But watching what he did in that game, you started to see, oh, okay, this is where things are going to turn for Texas because they finally have the guys to compete at this level. And now we've seen what happened the last couple of years. So again, not maybe so much for him, but for the Texas program being back, I think Quinn Ewers meant a lot to Texas. And maybe that he meant more to them than they did to him, maybe. I don't know if that makes sense, but those are just some of the good ones I threw out there. So I want to get some of yours as well, Damien, and then we can look at some of the bad as well.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on Alabama. I also added Jahmyr Gibbs as well. Jahmyr Gibbs, when he was at Georgia Tech, yes, we knew he was explosive, but I don't think we truly understood how. I don't think he goes from, go from Georgia Tech to being a first-round pick for the Detroit Lions if he doesn't make that jump to Alabama, and all eyes are on him at that time.
Good point.
And I agree with you 100%. I actually had Keandre Lambert-Smith as well for Auburn because I think the expectation for him was to kind of just be the OG for Cam Coleman. And Cam's going to be the number one guy, even if he is a freshman, but we need somebody that's solid. But he ended up being the number one target for a guy that we will mention later on as far as some transfers as well. And kind of looking elsewhere around just some good transfer situations. I have Jaden Daniels, I have Bo Nix, and a guy that, again, when he was at his former school, I did not think that he was competent enough to be a quarterback. But when he transferred and the system fit him a little bit better, he made it work. That's Haynes King at Georgia Tech.
Okay, that's actually a really
yes.
When that's an underrated one.
Yes, when he was at Texas A&M, I was like, oh my gosh, they're not going to get it done. He was
trash. Yeah.
He was, and him going to Georgia Tech made all the difference. And of course, Hendon Hooker. That's the gold standard.
Yeah, and I think, and that's the one where, I don't know, it almost feels the most genuine, just in the standpoint of the circumstances of the situation, him not, being where he wanted to be at Virginia Tech, coming over to Tennessee to be the backup. And then it turns out, oh, this Joe Milton guy.
Yeah, he can throw it 78 yards, but.
Yeah, maybe he's not super consistent. He gets injured, and then the rest is history, right, for Hendon Hooker and what he was able to do and turn himself into. I mean, again, I insist that if he hadn't gotten hurt his last year, maybe he doesn't win it, but
he's in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony.
Absolutely, and if he doesn't win it, I don't think he's any further than second in Heisman voting that year. I mean, he was incredible for Heupel and for the Volunteers, and I think that's one that, again, that's just one where you go and look, and it's there wasn't $4 million being exchanged. It wasn't stealing all the headlines. It was just, hey, we think we can develop you into, we can get the most out of you at the quarterback position. I know you're going to come over here and have to compete for playing time, but he wanted to do that. And again, it's just one of those stories that you get fewer and fewer of as we get more into this era of college football, of guys that want to take on a challenge and want to go and want to compete. And I know Damien's getting excited. You're getting butterflies just thinking about the good old times.
Yeah, it was great.
It was great.
It was fun while it lasted. I blame South Carolina. And also, you can throw Spencer Rattler in there because he was on the opposite end of that. Because going from Oklahoma, you're like, oh, he's damaged goods, and then all he does is go beat a top 5 team in Tennessee, hang 65 on him.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think maybe that one too for South Carolina of showing because that kind of put them back into the forefront, right? Where I know they had a disappointing year after that, but that was kind of the moment where we realized, okay, maybe Shane Beamer's kind of cooking something up here. And then obviously last year was kind of the coming out party of, oh, okay, yeah, nobody, I thought South Carolina was going to be one of the worst teams in the conference last year, and they ended up being one of the best. So, I think that's certainly a good one there. So we will we'll get to some of the bad here coming up in a minute, but I do want to get to some of your texts now, 205-834-9450 that y'all have coming in. Let's see. Lewis text in. He says, from FSU to Bama, good, and Jacob Coker and Landon Dickerson. He says, but from Alabama to FSU is bad. All of those guys last year. Yes, that is a good point. I'm trying to, I know FSU Dave, every time I see him, it's like, man, Earl Little Jr., he's going really good this year. And I'm like, I'm sure he is.
Keep that optimism.
Yeah, and I know Roy Dell's still down there. And again, like I wish the best for all of those guys, but yeah, it just hasn't.
I saw that Malik Benson coming a mile away.
It hasn't. Yeah, that well.
You saw that one a mile away. Like,
yeah, that one wasn't a big surprise. I've got some fun ones that I'll bring up here in a minute as well, kind of in a similar vein. Let's see. Okay, so he wasn't part of the portal era, someone notes, but he says, I would like to submit Blake Barnett's name as the worst transfer portal acquisition for all of the teams he suited up for. He did suit up for a lot of teams. That's a really good one.
That's great.
So I don't know if I've ever told this story on the radio before, but so that year when he started against USC in that football game, him and I were in a class together, and it was a small class, right? Like you had to talk to everybody, and there were like 15 of us. It was a communications class, and we start going to class. We talked to him a little bit. I remember him telling us he had like a $4,000 cat or something crazy like that. He was married to a professional surfer, like like he was, he lived a much different life than the rest of us. I will just put it like that. And I remember, I went to Texas, went to the USC game, watched Alabama smoke them, and watched Jalen Hurts come in and take the job away from Blake Barnett. And I remember going back to school on Monday, walking into class, and our teacher's doing roll, and she goes, "Where's Blake?" We all just kind of looked at her and said, "You didn't watch the game on Saturday, did you?" And she said, "No, what happened?" I said, "I don't think you're going to see him again." And we didn't. And that was it.
Yeah.
So I had a class with Blake Barnett for 2 weeks before Jalen Hurts took his job and he transferred and left, and we never saw him again.
Never saw him again.
Let's see. We have somebody here. Okay, yeah, some people throwing in basketball ones as well. Somebody brings up Janai Broom, the most impactful portal pickup in NCAA basketball history. Okay, we could have a conversation.
Yeah.
I would have to think about it more for a minute, but I think it would be on the short list for sure. And then somebody else says Walker Kessler coming over from North Carolina was like, this isn't too bad. And then that led to Janai Broom, kind of opened the door for him as well. So yeah, Walker Kessler, he was great there for Auburn as well. Let's see. We have somebody that says this wasn't a transfer portal thing, but Vinny Sunseri deciding to leave early for the NFL was not a great decision. Man, I loved watching him play at Alabama. He was fun to watch play. But yeah, no, you are right. Let's see. Fanboy, he chimes in. He says some of the best moments. He says Jamison Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs to Alabama, Jaden Daniels to LSU, and then he has a couple of worst. He adds DJ Uiagalelei.
Of course.
Yeah, that's up
Poster
there.
child.
And also TJ Finley, and that's a
name I had on my list as well.
Yes. So with that, appreciate Fanboy chiming in there. So let's take a look at some of the worst. So when we come back here on Morning JOX, we'll take a look at some of the worst transfer portal decisions of the transfer portal era. Continue to send yours in, best, worst. Maybe it was something that impacted your team or something that impacted a team you hate, and you got a laugh out of it. 205-834-9450. We're talking best and worst decisions of the transfer portal era here on the Wednesday edition of Morning JOX. 6:36. Welcome back in Morning Jocks here on Jocks 94.5. Conrad and Damien going down memory lane a little bit with the best and worst decisions of the transfer portal era. So again, transfer portal officially became a thing in late 2018. So we are now 6.5 years into this new era of college football. I know it seems like it was just a couple of years ago, but nope, it's been 6.5. And in light of the Nico situation, which I think a lot of people would say is the worst or one of the worst decisions that we've seen of the portal era, I thought it'd be a good idea to go back and reminisce on some of your favorite portal additions as well as the real head scratchers. So y'all can continue to chime in. We'll read your text here coming up, 205-834-9450. But we spent a lot of time in the last segment talking about some of the best decisions. And so now we wanted to take a look at some of the worst. So as Fanboy texted in there at the end of the segment, of the last segment, he does bring up DJ Uiagalelei. And I think it's just interesting because you could almost argue that maybe the decision to go to Oregon State could be in the best category because I wouldn't put it in the best category, but it was better, right? In the sense that, I mean, he had a pretty good year at Oregon State. I'd say it's mutually beneficial for both of those programs. And then going to Florida State, I mean, first off, we all knew what was going to happen. Like this was, and I think that's part of what makes the decision so bad is that there was not a single person, at least that we talked to, that when you heard DJU was going to Florida State, you went, oh, that's what they need. That is what they are looking for. That is going to get them in the college football playoff. No, we all knew it was going to be a disaster. I don't think we knew it was going to be as big of a disaster as it was, where he wasn't even going to play the whole season. But yeah, that one's really bad. And then TJ Finley, of course, that one's just more comedic, right? With the amount of times he's transferred. However, you do have to mention that the Texas State transfer decision was a good one.
Yes.
Because
should have never left.
No, he shouldn't have. He tore it up.
Should have never left.
So he could be in the best and worst category because honestly, what he did at Texas State, I was like, okay,
he's got it.
Yeah.
He's figured it all out.
And then he had to go to Western Kentucky and
yeah. I'll go ahead and start off with the bad. I put every Auburn quarterback since Bo Nix.
Okay, well, there we go.
Because it is.
Yep.
And the only reason I put Peyton Thorne is the fact that Hugh Freeze doubled down in year 2.
Yep.
That's the only issue I have. Now, if it would just been a 1-year stopgap, like, hey, it is what it is, well, you're good to go. That includes Robbie Asher. That includes Zach Calzada. That includes TJ Finley. It's every single one of them since Bo Nix.
Does it include Jackson Arnold?
Not yet.
Okay.
To be determined. To be determined.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I had Peyton Thorne on. I mean, come on.
It's right there.
Yeah, I had that one. Another one I'll throw out there for the worst, and I feel like we kind of forget about this one, but hence why I have it on the worst. Bear Alexander.
Oh, yeah. He caused all that commotion.
Well, and I was also trying to think, I mean, a lot of these are offensive guys is who you think of in a lot of these situations. And so it's a lot of running backs, receivers, and quarterbacks especially. So I was trying to think of some defensive players, but you played in every game as a freshman at Georgia, and that wasn't good enough. You played in the national championship game, and you still decided to leave, go to USC. Then you quit in the middle of the season because you don't want to be there anymore. Now you're at Oregon. So, I mean, clearly you have a pedigree that's good enough to get you to these high-level programs. But, I mean, it's, again, we haven't heard a lick out of him since he left Georgia. And, again, as a freshman, he played in all 12 games that season in the regular season for Georgia, and then he's still just bizarre. So he would be on the worst for me as well. I also threw in on the worst decisions, Kentucky. Their last 2 quarterbacks in Devin Leary and Brock Vandegrift, those were both just.
You could throw the other one in there too. Yeah. But it worked.
Okay. He got to the
evidence.
NFL.
Exactly. So with the resume.
Yeah.
But if you actually watched him play.
Yeah. Well, Vanderbilt.
Twice.
And then, yes. And then I will throw this one out there. This was the big one. And again, I know I'm going to leave some people out here. But I put every Alabama player that's transferred to Texas. Not a single one of them has panned out. Has a single one panned out? Isaiah Bond? No. Jaleel Billingsley? No. Ajay Hall? He's at Sacramento State? No. And then Amari Niblack. You hear anything about him last year?
Nope.
Didn't hear a word. Kendrick Blackshear? Nope. So, sorry, that one still is just.
Yeah, that one felt like it It stung a little bit. You good?
It didn't sting. It puts a smile on my face because it's like, come on, we still haven't learned from this. Like, there's a track record here and it doesn't work. I'm just saying there's not a great track record of players that have left Alabama. Just saying.
That is true.
Not saying that it would have been better if they had stayed, but not a lot of guys going out there and turning heads after they leave there. So what about you, Damon? What are some more that you would have in the worst category?
I would have, of course, again, TJ Finley, Peyton Thorne, and I know this is going to sting a little bit, but Tyler Buckner.
Yeah, that one was really bad on it. Fair. That was just a bad call. Nick Saban trying to do Tommy Reese a favor, I guess.
It was not a fit. And this one can be somewhat controversial. I ain't gonna say controversial, but Eli Ricks from LSU to Alabama, I think for the talent in which I thought he was, it never worked when I'm thinking like this is the ideal spot. You're in the prime spot. You're a defensive back. You're getting coached under Nick Saban, and there's a proven track record. If you play DB for this man, your chances of, now he did have, in the end, he ended up getting to the NFL, but I thought
he won a Super Bowl last year.
Right. I thought he was going to be one of those, early round picks because he went from LSU to Alabama.
Well, if you remember, and again, this is why these exercises are funny, but going into that year at Alabama, he was projected as a first-round pick in the NFL draft because everyone thought, oh, he's going to go be QB or CB1 at Alabama, and yeah, that didn't work. I mean, he did some nice things, but yeah, overall, he was certainly a disappointment, I think, in terms of, I think he was did he even get drafted? He might have been undrafted, or he was like a 7th-round pick or something, but I mean, he does have something that we don't, and that is a Super Bowl ring. But yeah, no, that's certainly that's a good one there as well, Damian. So, all right, well, we have a lot of you, man, a lot of texts coming in. All right, we're gonna try to get through all of these. Oh, someone says Isaiah Bond got hurt last year. Don't care.
Even when he was healthy, I don't remember him making,
I remember him dropping a few passes.
Plenty.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not making excuses for Isaiah Bond this morning, but you can continue to chime in 205-834-9450. What are some of your favorite, least favorite, best, worst, however you want to look at it, portal decisions for maybe your team or other teams around the SEC or around the entire country? We'll get to your reaction, your responses next here on JOX 94.5.
6:48 here on Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell alongside Conrad Van Order. Before we get you out this morning, before we get you to McElroy and Kublik in the morning, I got to tell you about my friends at Blue Chew. It's Wine Wednesday, so you might need a little something to give you a little boost after you had a couple glasses of Pinot Grigio, some Merlot, whatever you're drinking on. But, you know, like you might need something, you and your wife, after date night tonight, you need a little boost. Let me tell you about Blue Chew. It's an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, and Staxin in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets are performance enhancement for the bedroom and help men gain extra confidence when it's time to perform. It's an online prescription service, so you don't have to worry about going to the doctor, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy either, because it ships right to your door. Turn oh no into oh yes. And I can get you set up too for the free FREE. You go to bluechew.com and get your first month free when you use our promo code JOX at checkout. The only thing you have to pay for is the $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com. Use the promo code JOX, JOX, to receive your first month free. And remember, your boy DM6 told you, just chew it and do it.
Well, this is your reminder that coming up tomorrow night, you're going to have the NFL draft scheduled to start around 7. Let's be honest, it's not going to start until... Or the first pick won't be made until, 7:15?
But we know who the first pick is.
Yes, it'll be Cameron Ward.
Yes, sir.
The Miami quarterback. He will be a Tennessee Titan. We know that's going to happen. But the question begins after that. What was that? You excited?
Extremely.
Okay.
Extremely.
So you're sold, 100%.
1,000. Okay. I got to.
Well, yeah, you don't have a choice.
I got to.
You don't have a choice. But the drama will begin after that because there were a bunch of reports coming out. I know Peter Schrager had this yesterday for ESPN, but apparently a lot of teams looking at trading up with the Browns and Giants. They're fielding a lot of phone calls. But something I found interesting in that is a lot of the reports are saying people are trying to trade up, not for a Shadur Sanders, but for Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, or Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty, he's not making it out of the top 10. That is I don't think he's making it past 6 because the belief is that he'll either go to the Jaguars or the Raiders. But there's I would just be ready for some potential movement tomorrow night, which I absolutely love. That's my favorite thing about the first round of the draft, right, of the trades. And so that's going to be fun. And a reminder, we will be out. Pat and Molly will be out at Trim Tab tomorrow night from 6 to 8 for the draft. I'll be there as well. Some of us will be there just hanging out. So come by, say hello, and watch the draft with us. But that is coming up tomorrow night. So we will dive into more of that tomorrow. But getting to your text here on the transfer portal, best and worst decisions of the portal era. Somebody says, anybody remember JT Daniels?
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Yeah, he went to 4 schools, 5 schools?
Let's see. Georgia, USC, Rice, and...
I feel like there was some.
Did he go to Arizona State or West Virginia?
West Virginia. Mountain Mama.
West Virginia. Let's see. Connor from Tuscaloosa says Seth McLaughlin to Ohio State in the best category for Alabama or Ohio State. He was really good for Ohio State this year. All kidding aside, he was excellent for them. So yeah, that was definitely a good one. Let's see. CJ from Trustful says, how about the guy who transferred the wide receiver from TCU to Bama, or from Bama to TCU? If you're talking about JoJo Earl, yeah, that one did not work out.
Man, I forgot about him.
Yeah, JoJo Earl, that did not work out for him. And if you remember, that was a guy Nick Saban was super high on.
Yep.
When he was there. And yeah, that one didn't work out for him quite so well. Drake, Florida fan, he chimes in. He says the best for my team has been Ricky Pearsall. That was a great pickup from Arizona State.
Yes, sir.
And he is
a dog.
He's about to be wide receiver 1 for the 49ers. Like,
yeah, after getting shot. Like, this dude, his 30 for 30 is going to be insane.
Many men. Casey, he texted in. He says, Oklahoma was good for Jalen Hurts. He went from backup to Super Bowl champ. Yeah. That one definitely did. That one worked out. I can't remember if that was technically in the portal era or not. I think it was, like, at the very beginning of it. Let's see. Will chimes in, Jaden Daniels to LSU. Yep, we have another Jalen Hurts to Oklahoma. Let's see. All right, somebody chimes in. They say Jalen Hurts to Oklahoma was great. Isaiah Bond to Texas was mid. Ajayi Hall to Texas was egregious. And Jacoby Brooks to Louisville was good. Ja'Cory Brooks, that's a good one. He had a monster year last year.
Yes, sir.
That's actually a very good. That was a good pull there.
Yes,
I kind of forgot about that. Let's see.
Oh, another one. What receiver from Texas A&M went to Oregon?
Evan Stewart.
Evan Stewart. I mean, he possibly could have been wide receiver. He would have been a great wide receiver one because I always thought the talent was 1,000% there.
Well, I thought he was going to because the rumor initially was he was going to Alabama.
Right.
And I was pumped.
Whew.
I was pumped. And didn't quite work out so well for him
man.
at Oregon. But maybe because he has another year left, right? So I would expect that.
I remember Texas A&M paid him a lot of money to come there.
They did. Yeah, he's still at Oregon. So maybe this year, he'll be the number one guy. But yeah, TBD.
Yeah, right.
TBD. David chimes in. He says, best would be Diego Pavia from New Mexico to Vandy. Great one. That is great. And someone says the worst was Brian Daboll from the Patriots to Alabama. I think that one actually worked out pretty well. Yeah. I mean, he's a head coach now. Someone says Hendon Hooker. Yep, we brought up Hendon Hooker. Michael says Diego Pavia. Yep, that's a good one. Let's see. Someone said, I'm blanking on this one. Somebody said Vince Carter's son transferred from Ohio State to Alabama. So much hype. Maybe I'm forgetting something there. Someone says the UNLV quarterback last year who quit in the middle of the season.
Oh,
do you remember that?
Saluka.
Yeah, that was good. Our buddy Bennett, he chimes in. He says the worst decision of all time in the transfer portal, Auburn getting Peyton Thorne.
Attaboy. Again, it's the double down effect. That's the only thing. If you would have just been a 1-year stopgap, you're like, hey, you live and you learn. But it's what happened last year.
Yes, we have somebody saying Cam would be the best transfer ever. Yes, he would, but again, it's not the portal era, but yes, he would be. I would agree with that. A bunch of people saying Damian is in the transfer portal for his fandom.
No, that's recruiting.
We need to get back to that. We'll visit that tomorrow, maybe.
That is recruiting.
Give you some time to give your pitches for your fan bases. We have Will Howard going to Ohio State, won a national championship.
Yeah.
Tyler Harrell to Alabama for worst. That one wasn't good. Someone says Jalen Milroe going to the NFL. Well, at least we're done with that. Oh, he was talking about Chris Carter's son, not Vince Carter. Okay, yep. Okay, now that makes way more sense. All right, well, appreciate y'all chiming in there. Fun conversation this morning. We're back tomorrow. McElroy and Kubik in the morning. They're next.